Noon, brother. How are you doing, sir?
I'm okay, man. Hate to be calling you for this purpose here. I could think of a million other things we could be talking about and enjoying ourselves, but unfortunately, there's a situation that has occurred in our city that's been going on for the last few weeks that has disturbed the city. I'm sure it's disturbed you as well. And you've been dealing up close and personal with this family as it relates to baby Davis. Um, I guess I'm just curious, X. How did you get involved in the first place? Even going back before Mr. Vince, but going back to Miss Bowen.
All right, dear brother. Let me first say thank you for having me on your show.
Yes, sir.
I greet you, your co-host, and your listening audience in the greeting words of peace of Assalamu alaikum. Those words simply mean, may peace be unto you.
Also to you.
Thank you for allowing me to share some information with you and answer your questions. I initially got involved in this case. The best friend of Brittany reached out to me on her behalf. She and I had conversations. And then after that, I actually spoke to Darion Vance's brother. And he and I had two conversations in detail at length. And then got back on the phone with her best friend again. And at that point, Brittany and I began to talk
Mm-hmm.
for a couple of days over the phone. And then we met face to face and we began to have conversations for hours at a time, face to face.
When you had a chance to sit down and start talking to her about the missing child and boyfriend, what was your initial thought?
You know, Brother Hatter, I'm going to share a few things with you that I've shared with nobody. Because when I'm speaking to you, it's almost like I'm speaking to one of the pilots, speaking to one of the homies, one of the OGs, you know, from the old school, from the hood. So I'm just going to be straight with you and just give it to you the way it really
Yes,
is,
sir.
as much as I can, because I don't want to jeopardize convicting anybody in this case, because three of people should be charged in this case.
I got you.
They play different roles, but they all should be charged, too, with the subsequent cover-up of what happened after young Maleah was killed, in my opinion.
Yes, sir.
When I met with Brittany face to face, I had questions about a lot of things, but I didn't raise those questions on the phone. And I wouldn't ask those questions via text message because these were questions that when you ask these questions, you want to look somebody in their face. You want to look them in their eye, and you want to see what their response is. The brothers who work with us in the New Black Panther Nation, these brothers did a great job of canvassing the community, the apartment complex, and putting me in direct contact with family members of Brittany Bowens who shared serious information with me that helped me greatly in the work of trying to find out what really happened to young Maleah.
Mm-hmm.
When I sat down with Brittany and spoke with her, her answers to certain serious questions were not sufficient. In fact, some of it was shameful, absolutely shameful. But I knew, Brother Hatter, I couldn't take that approach immediately with her because if I did, it would jeopardize my ability to come to a serious factual conclusion of what happened to young Maleah and where she was. So I had to swallow a lot of what I really wanted to say to our sister for the sake of trying to find young Maleah. So even though these questions hurt me and really angered me, in fact, one time when I was sitting with her, I was so upset with her, I took my hand and I slammed it on the table, then I apologized. But it was the natural reaction to a question, her answer angered me so greatly. I
Can I
just
ask
had to
what that
do
question
something.
was, if you don't mind, or is that do you think it'll jeopardize the case?
No, I'll share it with you, brother. I said, Brittany, how could you, how could you cover up child abuse for that man when she admitted to me that he was beating that baby with a belt when she was sick?
Mm.
I said, Brittany, he whooped this girl when she was sick. She said, yes. I say, how could you, knowing that this man was whipping your daughter when she was sick, knowing that this man beat her so bad one time, you wanted to take this child to the emergency room, but you chose not to, and he talked you out of it. You get naked pictures he's sending to another man, and you want to break it off with him. You're ending you all's relationship, so you're telling him via text messages. You got all of this madness he's done to this child before it's time for you to go to your father's funeral, but yet you still leave your baby with this man? And to be honest with you, the answer she gave me was a bullshit answer. And I'm sorry for my language. Forgive me.
I understand.
But
well, Mr. X, do you, because I know there were problems before, and I know we haven't gotten to where we are now. So I just wanted to backtrack for those that may, I'm assuming that there may be somebody in the audience that may not know about young Maleah's case. But I know that CPS had taken her and two of her siblings out of the household. Do you have any information on as to why they allowed the child back into the home afterwards?
They allowed the child back into the home because through the CPS investigation and the court involvement, they could not make a final determination if Darian or Brittany caused the physical injuries to Maleah. So what they did, and the judge played an important role in this, because the ultimate and final decision was hers. They put the child back in the home because they could not make a final determination Brittany or Darian had caused the physical injuries to Maleah. If that was the case, then it was Judge Lopez's responsibility to send Maleah to her father, send Maleah to her uncle, to her auntie, to her grandmother, and if that does not work with immediate family placement, then send the child to a loving foster care home so you can get down to the bottom of what's going on. But you don't put that baby back into a environment where you know she was physically abused, and just because you can't make a determination of which one actually did it, you don't send her back home.
Okay, and I agree with that 100%. So why did little Maleah's father, why did her actual father have the right to come take his child at any time?
Brother.
And I may be asking you questions that you don't have the answer to. It's just when we hear the case, there were so many confusing points on it that we as the public were trying to understand, but we just don't understand.
I raise questions like that because I wanted to know where was he.
Right.
And to be honest with you, the brother was seriously ostracized from his daughter by both Brittany and Darian. And the brother was pushed away aggressively when they didn't want him to be around young Maleah.
Wow.
Because they felt they could use the lack of financial responsibility to the child on his part as justification to keep him from his daughter, but that the real motive was for him not to see the injuries that Maleah was acquiring in the home.
Wow.
And so to say because a man is not financially where you want him to be, you hide behind that lie to keep that baby from her father. But when he did find out, I don't know why brother did become much more aggressive in getting his daughter. That is a question that must be posed to him.
Yes, sir. Mr. X, now before we get to Vince, I know there was a place in there where you decided not to represent alongside Brittany. And if you don't mind me asking, I'm just curious, what was the conclusion that made you say I can no longer be on this person's team to help them out in this situation?
We had just left Channel 11. And she lied on television.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't my place at that point to stop her or to intervene, because I knew even though she had lied, it was still on public record that she was lying, and it could easily be proven with everything that we had gathered and we had learned. And when we got in my car, I asked her to ride with me, and I wanted to talk to her. And when she was in my car, I asked her, how do you think Maleah really died? And I asked her, what does she think happened? Her answer brought me to a factual conclusion that the initial injuries that was caused to Maleah was no accident. And that is exactly what was repeated in causing young Maleah's death. And at that point, I'm saying to myself, how in the world could she keep all this to herself? How can you not tell investigators all this other stuff that you know? And so I got on the phone and told her to go meet with the investigators. This was a little bit before the Channel 11 interview, because I told her to share everything with the investigators, but she didn't. And when we was in my car, I came to that conclusion.
Was she still trying to take up for Mr. Vince, you think, or shame? She was ashamed, and I guess I'm asking you to imagine what the idea was, or as to why this person was responding the way she was responding.
It's no accident or conversational coincidence that you asked that question, and that's a good question. I'm gonna be honest with you about something. I'm gonna tell the truth to you right now, brother. She never, ever, ever, ever said one negative thing about Daniel Vance. Not one time. Even after he was charged with tampering with her daughter's body, she still spoke of him in an affectionate term. And when I found out that she was communicating with his brother, who was going to visit him in jail, sending messages through the brother to give to him. And when I found out, she told her sister, I can't tell Mr. X everything.
Wow.
And then the sister told me the other things she didn't want me to know. And then I confronted Brittany with it. And I was done. At that point, Brother Hatter, I just couldn't take it no more.
I understand. So how were you able to then start speaking to Vince and then get him to a point where he was willing, able? I'm just curious because no other investigators were able to get this information about this child out. And we were everyone watching this saying that we know that this guy knows something. But what was it that you said, and how'd you get in contact? Did he ask for you? How did you get there? And how were you able to convince him that now is the time for him to say something about this little baby?
Well, let me say this. After my last conversation with Brittany in my vehicle, I made sure within 24 hours, maybe 48 hours, it was still 48 hours, I went straight to the district attorney's office to share with them everything the homicide investigators did not know. In fact, to be honest with you, there were some very, very good homicide investigators working this case. These were two very good men, the lead investigators, but they had absolutely nothing. And so I'm sharing things with them, giving them things that they don't even have. To the point to where I say, now, just come meet me. Let's sit down. Let's go into further greater detail. This case had really gone cold because they were saying to the family, if we get a tip, if we get a lead, then we can go on something. But they knew no face, no murder case.
That's right.
They knew it. No face, no murder case. So the most Darion could face or would face was a tampering with the body charge.
Yep.
That possibly could not be proven in trial because there was still no body. How can you tamper with a body if it ain't no body?
Yes, sir.
So the charge was enough to hold him, but eventually wouldn't be enough to keep him.
So when does Quanell X enter into the picture, being able to speak to Vince? Was a family member asking you to speak to them, or did you just say, I'm gonna just see if I can get this guy to talk to me one-on-one candidly about young Maleah's situation?
Uh, Brother, there was a source inside the jail, a brother who I've known for years from the street, who's got in contact with me through a third person and said, you need to come speak to this cat because he is saying that he would like to speak to you. He told me that early in the week. I kind of just, okay, I hear these things all the time. But when it comes from a brother like that, well, then I know he's credible. There's some truth behind it. And I'm going to tell you what happened. Late Thursday night, my daughter Camille sent me a text message. And she said, Daddy, I had a dream about Maleah. And I said, well, Camille, baby, what did you dream? She said, Daddy, I dreamed that you were in an open field and there was a bunch of police around you and y'all had bags in your hands and y'all was digging in the ground, taking body parts out the ground.
Oh, wow.
And she said, and it was in Texas, but right out of Texas. I said, well, honey, how is it in Texas, right out of Texas? She said, Daddy, I don't know, but I'm telling you, I had a dream. Y'all found that girl. I left it at that. So I decided, I made my mind up I was going to go meet with Darion. And I met with Darion. And when he began to talk to me and tell me things and answer questions, it was like my daughter's conversation that she sent me hit me like a ton of bricks.
And X, this is your only meeting with this guy when he tells you all this stuff? The only meeting, your first meeting?
I met with him for about 30 minutes. My first and only meeting. My first and only meeting. We met for about 30 minutes.
Wow. So in this 30 minutes, you're able to talk to him, and is he just talking freely, or do you have to convince him, like, hey, man, I know that you know where the baby's body is. You know what happened.
We had a serious man-to-man conversation. He was a bit cocky. There was no remorse, none.
He was cocky based on what?
The dialogue between him and I.
He was cocky?
To be honest with you, it was like two street cats having a serious conversation. It was like two brothers in the streets who got a misunderstanding having a straight-up man-to-man conversation face-to-face.
Wow.
That's what it was, because he was a bit cocky with it. He was real with me, and I damn sure was real with him.
Right.
So we kept it very real with each other. And I used the techniques that I learned in the Nation of Islam in FOI class. I've never said this publicly, but the manual that I use to extract confessions from so many murderers is a manual that was given to us in the FOI class in the Nation of Islam.
Wow.
And I tried my best to master that book over the years, but I've never failed. I've never failed using it. Now I've turned in 56 murders. This is my fourth case where a child was missing and killed, and I was able to extract confessions from one of the parents of who killed the child.
Did he easily answer the question? Did it take time? Well, it was 30 minutes, so it seemed like you got right to it.
We had a straight up conversation, man. It wasn't one of them conversations, piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Right.
It was a straight dialogue, man to man. Tell me where you at, tell you where I'm at. And what? I'm trying to be as delicate as possible.
No, and I understand, and I appreciate that. Because
that conversation is going to play out big time in another arena in the future.
Right, I understand. So he was pretty forthright in telling you all the information that you needed to know. He went pretty much
Absolutely.
he went in detail.
Absolutely.
Did he tell you exactly? And you probably cannot say, but I'm asking anyway. What did he tell you exactly why he did what he did?
He gave me some ideas,
Okay.
and he gave me some things that pushed it. One thing in particular was he felt that he was the sole parent for the children,
Mm-hmm.
and he was overwhelmed because Brittany was not the proper parent that she should be, in his opinion. But who is he to determine what's the proper parent?
Yes, sir.
But at the same time, he was saying she was not helping with the children rehabilitate Maleah's rehabilitation, her doctor's appointments, etc., taking her back and forth to daycare, etc. And he just felt that she wasn't helping him. But also, we learned that he was having an affair, and we were able to meet the woman and talk with the woman at length with whom he was having an affair with, who shared great information for me that I was able to extract from that conversation in my dialogue that was useful when I talked to him.
Right. And he was clear with you. In his opinion, it was accidental what has happened to her. And if accidental, what makes him then take the child and dispose of the child and then travel very far to get rid of the child's body?
Well,
If you can say.
First of all, brother, an accident is something that you do that you don't intend to do.
Yes, sir.
But when you intend to do something, you meant exactly what you did. You may be sorry for it later, but your actions were not an accident because you intended to inflict the harm that you caused.
Yes.
So, yes, you said it was an accident, but it wasn't no damn accident.
Right, right.
This was hatred and retaliation.
How soon after you had this conversation with him about where the body possibly could be, were you able to get the team out there and start searching? Because to my understanding now, and I'm not really sure where you are, but to my understanding, they found a bag, and the suspicion is that this is the body of the baby.
I can guarantee you it is.
So was that? So he was that accurate in telling you exactly where this baby?
No, all the way down to the clothes that she would have on.
Wow.
All the way down to the clothing items that she would have on, and those clothing items matched what was found.
Can I ask you? Was there something special about this location as to why he took this child that far?
I never asked him that.
Okay.
We never went there.
Was he able to tell you when he took the body there? Because we look at the timeline. I'm trying to figure out how he was able to make this trip.
That's something I'll have to speak about.
Got you.
In a different arena.
I got you. Wow.
But
and about the body, can you tell me if it took long for them to find the body after they know where it's at? They went right to it.
No, the body was found. The homicide investigators, Tim Miller of Texas EchoSearch and myself, we got on a conference call with the local police agency that was in that jurisdiction of where the body was placed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to use the word dump because
I understand.
it's keeping Maleah.
Yes, sir.
But where the body was placed, we were able to get on the phone with the local police agency, and it had to be within the hour that they called back and said, we discovered the bag. And they told us that some men had been out there working and had been cutting the grass. And when they said that, I remember Tim saying, oh, my God, she's probably spread it all over the place.
Oh, God.
And that's exactly what it was when they discovered the bag, that it had been ran over using lawn equipment to cut the grass on the road.
Mm. So, Quanell, so what's going to be your level of involvement at this time? I mean, it seems to me that you've opened the case, solved the case. I understand that there's going to be a process that has to happen now, but where does this place you at as far as this case is concerned? Will you talk more to Mr. Vince? Will Miss Brittany?
It places me in a very extremely uncomfortable position, but it places me in a position that God would want me to be.
Okay.
Because this case will be built, I believe, on at least 85% of our work in this case.
Yep.
Because the proof of the abuse in the home, we proved that. The proof of who did it, we did that. The confessions about all of that, we got those confessions. What happened to her, we got those confessions. Where she was placed, we got those confessions. Darian Vance had spoke to nobody. He refused to even speak to the investigators. He wouldn't even talk to them. And then when he got a lawyer, there wasn't much the investigators could do, because once he lawyered up, then they could legally not even really talk to him.
Right.
But it did not stop me from using the methods that I've used for many years in many, many high-profile cases where men have confessed murders to me.
So, Mr. X, let me ask, this is my final question. So I know that you said that there was a level of arrogance with him, and he did not like the portrayal of himself in the media. What exactly did he mean he didn't like the way he was being portrayed by the media?
He felt he was being portrayed as the bad parent when he felt that he was the only one taking care of Maleah, and that the real bad parent was Brittany, and that he was the only one providing and taking care of the child on a daily basis, because he felt Brittany was not always there.
What?
Yeah. That was his concern.
Wow. Okay.
That was his concern. There was no emotions and no genuine concern whatsoever about Maleah or what had happened to her.
So you didn't see, he didn't look apologetic. I'm sorry that this happened to that child.
No.
None. Wow.
No, sir, not at all.
Wow.
No, sir, not at all. Not at all. And I immediately grabbed the phone and called Tim Miller and said, Tim, get everybody ready. I know where the body is. And I thank God for Tim Miller, because he and I have worked together on several big cases. And every time we've worked together, I've been able to get a confession to solve those cases. So God brought he and I together also in this to bring closure for young Maleah. But a lot of people, this is what a lot of people don't understand. They were grilling me for why you standing there with the mother. They were grilling me because they don't understand why you representing the mother. They didn't understand. That was all a part of a strategic plan to get to the truth. And I had to do it in a way that I wouldn't compromise my ability to find out what really happened to Maleah and where she was. So I had to take the role that I took to obtain the ultimate goal of getting to the facts of what happened to Maleah and where she was. And I thank God that it worked out exactly in that manner. But the crazy part about it is, some people like yourself, Brother Hatter, who've known me for years, there have been many high-profile cases, like the Tanisha Stewart case, where the police took that man who murdered that beautiful young girl and had him for 19 hours, and they couldn't get nothing out of him. And the man met with me for 23 minutes and told me the entire story. They had Randy Sylvester, who killed his 2 children and burnt them up in a suitcase, lying, saying somebody had kidnapped them over a drug debt. They had that man for 2 days and got nothing. And it took me 3 hours.
Well, I believe that for sure that there's other family members that will need closure as it relates to Maleah Davis. And I think the community, too, to be honest with you, because everyone was following this case. And I've seen a lot of cases in this city, but, man, people really took this personal, Mr. X. They took it very personal. Close friend of mine, Rob, who has a little child, who has a little girl. These people, I mean, I've heard some of the nicest people say some of the most interesting things as it comes to Mr. Vince and to Miss Brittany as well. So it's a very emotional case for this city.
I've said the same things.
I understand.
I've said the same things, but a lot of it I had to hold in. I had to hold in to get to the truth.
Well, I appreciate the work you've always done and you continue to do, X. You already know that. And I'm glad that I think that people needed closure of this particular case. I have to say that. It was just, yeah, Rob is in the background saying thank you. It was just a lot of people were bothered by this case.
I just want to tell you, Quanell, thank you. This